Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be just looking at a few pots I have in the garden of a few perennial shrubs and herbs and bits and pieces that I have that just need a bit of cleaning up after the winter time. So in front of me here I have two fuchsias, two different varieties. Miss Popple is one of them. I can't remember off the top of my head the other variety. I'll have to look it up. I have it written down somewhere. I have here in front of me, I have some mint, some lemon balm, which is actually doesn't need too much of a cleaning up. It might need a little bit of a top dressing. Some oregano in a pot here as well. It just needs a little bit of, small bit of tidying up. Chamomile here as well, which again just needs a small few dead leaves pulled off it. And I have a buddleia or butterfly bush here in front of me. This is actually, if you can believe it, I took midsummer last year, took just a small little cutting of that, and it's after shooting up, but I'm going to cut it right back to the base and replant it today actually in the ground, but it'll be fine. These guys are really resilient, and they do a lot of growing, so it'll be a good height come the end of the growing season this year. And then I just have it's a small look at my blueberry plant here, which needs to be repotted, and the pot into which it's going to go, which needs to be cleared out as well. So just a look over an overview of kind of a few of the different pots I have to take. So with my fuchsia that I have here, they just need, you can see here, there's a bit of moss around the top after coming over the winter. So again, I'm just going to clear that moss away. But I'll have a look at that in a second about clearing the moss away. But again, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a trim back. So because the fuchsia flowers right up to September, October, November even sometimes, so it'll be a late flowering shrub. It's too late to cut it back then. So generally, anytime in spring, kind of early to mid-spring, you can give it a bit of a trim back. Actually, with fuchsia, you can cut it kind of right back as well, and it'll come. But I'm not going to cut it back that hard because I still want a bit of growth out of it. But you can see even here over the winter, there's a bit of a dead wood here, so the top of this branch is after breaking off. So it's a good idea to cut it back. But I probably might even cut it back to this growing point here, you see, and maybe reduce it by about a third. And the same with this plant as well. And again, that'll stimulate growth for the springtime. And you can see the buds are starting to appear on it anyway. So I'll just give you an example of cutting it back. So when you are just above because it's opposite leaf buds on the branch, so just go back to and give it a snip there. And again, that just gives it a new growing point. It just tidies it up. I'm going to cut that back as well. Just makes the plant a bit neater, and again gets rid of any of that dead wood that you have on it. I'll just give it a bit more of a clear up and show you the finished product. So as you can see, I haven't done anything overly drastic with it. I've just cut it back by roughly a third, maybe a little bit, some of the branches back by more than half. Actually, there's a little bit that I missed just there. Give that a snip off, and you know, I've just given it a bit of a top dressing of some fresh compost over the top. And the reason you'd give your pots, any of these pots, a bit of a top dressing is just to, number one, to freshen up the compost on the top. There's generally a few nutrients in it that will help kickstart the plant, but also it helps to warm up the plant as well, just by a few degrees, and gives it a little bit of a head start come the growing season. So again, there's a few reasons to give it a little top dressing. It always, if nothing else, it makes it look a bit neater as well. And I'll do the same with this guy here. You can see this guy's gone a bit taller, but I'll just give that a little once over now as well. Now, so there's our second fuchsia done. Again, I've probably gone a bit harder on that one than I did in the previous one, but that's fine. It'll still be absolutely okay, and a bit of a top dressing as well. But again, you know, the likes of these plants you wouldn't start feeding for a little while yet till they're kind of properly into their flowering period. But you know, it does that top dressing and a bit of a cutback gives them a good kickstart. So your oregano here, it's very straightforward actually. It's nice and fresh here on top of this compost here, so I'm actually not going to put a top dressing on that just yet, but you can see some of the older stems from last year, and it's easy enough to cut back. It's fairly straightforward. You're just cutting back into the base, removing those stems, and literally trace them back. Didn't get that one quite right, and then this one here. So again, that's just the older growth from last year. Again, you kind of feel it. It's kind of as that nearly kind of papery feel to it. So again, the newer growth down below is much fresher, much softer. And again, that plant is ready to go again for this year, and it's it's fine. Your mint, always recommended to keep your mint in a pot. Now, this was kind of a cutting I took from someone, and I just threw it into a pot. It wasn't. You can see here the compost is quite low in it, so I want to remove it from this pot. But always keep your mint in a pot or in some kind of confined space if you can, because it will spread everywhere if you don't. And again, you can see the old stem from last year, and I'm just going to cut that back to the base and remove it. And again, you have all your fresh growth here as well, so that's a nice healthy plant. So I can move that onto a bigger pot once I get my hands on one. So that's fairly straightforward with the oregano and the mint. Lemon balm, again the same. You can see the soil is a bit uneven in it, so I might top that up a little bit. Again, that hasn't really started. There's one kind of little bit here that needs to be cut back, but for the most part it's fine. It hasn't really started to do anything this year at all, whereas the mint has started to shoot alright, but the lemon balm, and they're quite similar in their leaf when they are growing, it hasn't really done much yet. So again, that's fine. A little bit of a top dressing, I'll give that one in a while. Then your chamomile, again, soil is fine on top. All you're getting here is really some kind of dead leaves in the centre, so just pull those out. And again, the chamomile gets a lovely kind of daisy-like flower on it, so it's a nice one to have in the garden. I probably will put that into a bed at some stage as well, and free up a pot. But again, that doesn't need a huge amount of TLC at this moment in time. Just a bit of a clear out, just to freshen up that nice little kind of ferny leaf on it. So it's a lovely plant. Just the foliage alone is lovely, but it's nice when it's in flower as well. I have my buddleia here as well, the one I said I took the photo, the cutting of. You can see it's gone right up here, so it's nearly 1 metre in height already. Again, but I'm going to actually cut it right back down to the base here. Cut it back down to here and remove that stem. And again, I'm even going to remove this side shoot here as well. And that plant will be more than happy. I'm going to plant that. I'll show you me planting that in a few minutes. But again, it might seem like a drastic cut, but this plant, you can cut it right back to the nub every year and it'll keep coming. And again, it's a great one for the pollinators. Butterfly bush, it's called, or Buddleia Davidii. You'll see them growing everywhere around, but I do like to include them in the garden because they are a very good pollinator friendly plant. And last but not least, then I have my blueberry plant, which has been in this pot 2 years, which is far too long for it really. It should be moved on. Now, the one thing about blueberry plants is they're ericaceous plants, so again, they need an acidic compost. And also, if you're putting them into a pot, they need a pot that's shallow. They have a shallow root system, so the roots go outwards mostly as opposed to going downwards, so they don't, a big deep pot is of no real benefit to them. So a shallower pot is nicer, and this shallow pot I have here, it's a nice wide one. I had a perennial salvia in it, which I'm not sure, it was a tender perennial, and I'm not sure if it's actually survived the winter. I've given it a bit of a cut back here, I'm not sure, but I'm going to take it out of there and see. And then around here there was petunia, I think, and I have some trailing verbena, which is actually, some of it has survived here, but again, on its own, if I left it there, it wouldn't be great for this year, so I'm actually going to take some cuttings from it. I'll show you in another video maybe next week for taking cuttings, and we'll go through that in terms of what you can take from different plants. But again, I could get plenty of plants from the likes of this, but again, the plant by itself has gone too straggly to kind of be of any use for me for this year, so the cuttings will be much better. So again, I'm not going to show the transplanting of the blueberry plant yet, but that's my plans for that one. I will just show you me planting this buddleia here for you now. So here we have the buddleia plant, and this is my pollinator bed that I'm going to put it into here. Again, it's a bit sparse at the minute, but again, there are seeds coming up through it, or starting to, and I'm going to get seed put down for it as well. So I'm going to put it here towards the back because, as I said, the buddleia does shoot up quite high. It takes up a lot of space, so in terms of height, so to the back of the bed is ideal. Just have a plane flying overhead there. So I've dug the hole there. I've removed the buddy. You can even see from the small plant it is. There's quite a fibrous root system on it there for a plant that's only got a cutting last year. It's doing remarkably well. And again, I'm just placing it in that hole there, and I'm just going to firm that soil in around it, and that plant will be okay. I'll give it a bit of a water now in a second, but you know, it's hardly visible there now, but it's going to become a main feature probably of that bed once it does get going. And again, a great one to have in the garden, but just I think you need to treat them, cut them back hard every year, and keep a bit of manners on them, and they'll be absolutely fine. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that today. Thanks very much.